And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Starting off flying weather here for tomorrow morning. Friday morning, a lot of IFR up here with snow from the Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast. South of the mountains, though, VFR with areas of marginal VFR, especially along the Alaska Range here, on up into the Tanana Valley area, White Mountains there, to just south of the Yukon. And a lot of IFR here out over the Bering Sea, into the Yukon Delta coast, another band extending into Bristol Bay. And the third zone there dropping down to Adak, and a little bit of IFR here around Yakutat there, and marginal for the southeast coast. For the afternoon, marginal VFR here, Prince William Sound, kind of moving back in from the east here, sliding into Passage Canal and Portage area. Otherwise, VFR on down the Panhandle, good VFR in the interior here from Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay, right on up to the Brooks Range with IFR for areas of the North Slope and especially the central and western Arctic coast. A little bit of IFR here right along the east side of Kodiak Island, otherwise not too bad. And out over the Bering Sea, still a couple areas of IFR here, one over the central and eastern areas, now having pulled back off the southwest coast, but still extending down to Unalaska Island, and another zone out there just pushing into the far western areas. And then for Saturday morning, that zone advances eastward, links up with the northern zone, and we've got IFR here over the northern and eastern Bering Sea sliding down to the Alaska Peninsula with more IFR, North Slope on out to the Arctic coast there, and then down to the Bering Strait, Shishmaref into Steller and those areas, Diomede Islands. And for Prince William Sound, IFR back into the picture there, and a bigger area of IFR here coming into the southern Gulf of Alaska, some of that slipping into Kodiak Island. And for the afternoon, that area lifts north and pushes east here, as indicating a front coming in. So IFR showing up along the southeast coastal areas there, mainly the central and north coast, on up into Lincoln Glacier Bay, covering the North Gulf Coast here into Prince William Sound and the Bristol Bay area, western interior there, all the way up into the Noatak Valley, northwest coast here, and the central interior, looking really good VFR for Saturday afternoon. IFR holds for the eastern North Slope and the Arctic coast, and VFR all the way out to the coastline here to the west, but picking up some marginal VFR around western Nunivak Island, possible IFR for the Pribilofs, and IFR pretty likely here from Adak westward, or actually maybe even Atka westward to Shimianatu, and probably the Komondorskis as well, passes Anatuvik. IFR for the day Friday, again with that winter storm warning in effect for these areas, and for Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR for rainy and windy, looking good for Isabel and Mentesta, and optimistically Tanita. Probably see some clouds, but VFR clouds and showers if any occur. And for Portage, VFR to start, becoming marginal VFR or the higher conditions early on possibly, and the tendency to lower into the afternoon. And Chilkoot and White starting out marginal, becoming VFR. And the freezing levels here, about 4,000 feet right through the central interior here into the northern Bering Sea and St. Lawrence Island, 2,000 feet to the north, 2,000 feet to the south here in over the at least the eastern Bering Sea. And then we've got 8 to 9,000 feet or so over the central and southern southeast coast. And for, let's see, there we go. Northerly flow here at jet stream level, higher pressure out over the western Bering Sea. And we've got upper level low here over the Yukon Delta with a sharp trough extending southward. So we've got this north-northwest wind, 75 knots across the eastern Aleutians. Stronger jet here, 120 to 130 knots coming up just along and east of Kodiak Island, the North Gulf Coast, and blowing in across the Canada there, and coming down to 9,000 feet. Upper level low here, dropped into the western Brooks Range area, southwest flow, 40 knots to the east of that, and to the west here, north at 40 knots. And out here over the Bering Sea with low pressure there, southwest of Nunivak, or Cape Newenham, and higher pressure to the west. We got northwest winds, or pretty much 40 to 45 knots here down across the eastern Aleutians. And back it up here, hit that too soon. Westerly winds, about 50 knots, blowing in toward Dixon Entrance. 3,000 feet though, much lighter winds here across the Panhandle and all of interior Alaska, pretty light variable winds. We've got some 40-knot winds there, trying to push up to Kodiak, not quite making it there. And northwest at about 35 to 40 here for the eastern Aleutians. And so turbulence-wise, nothing really significant. Maybe some possible isolated moderate turbulence here for the Fox Islands there, and also for Kiska and Amchitka, possibly to shimmy in at too. Otherwise, nothing of any significance elsewhere around the state.